Troy Bowman from the Alinytjara Wilurara Landscapes Board in South Australia is going to present to us on the collaborative efforts of buffel grass management in South Australia. So thanks, Troy. If you're online, if you can share your presentation, we'll get you to run through that.
That's great. Thank you, Justin. If you can just confirm that you can see my screen there when it pops up.
Can confirm.
Excellent. All right. So yeah, buffel grass management in South Australia. So I'm currently the state buffel grass coordinator, and ultimately buffel grass, as many of you will well know, is a deep-rooted C4 summer growing grass introduced in since the 1920s, primarily for pasture improvement and dust control, and it's now widely spread across many of the arid and semi-arid sort of landscapes across Australia, and causing significant impacts on safety through primarily the impact of fire and risk to infrastructure, as well as culture and the environment. Buffel's been declared in South Australia since 2015, so we're currently in our second iteration of a strategic plan, and it's declared for the sale and movement of either plant material or contaminated goods, as well as having a requirement for destruction or control on property. We manage it in South Australia based on a zoning approach, ultimately around the density and distribution and resulting feasibility of control. So we have a Zone 1 up in the northwestern corner of the state where it's ultimately asset protection. Zone 2, where it's about protecting sites and where possible reducing those populations, particularly outliers and high-risk vectors. And then Zone 3 for the remainder of the state where it's an eradication target. And since 2015, we've undertaken a huge amount of activity. We've conducted over 15,000 kilometres of roadside surveys. We've done strategic response activities where we pull together landscape staff from across the state and target to establish containment lines and priority infestations. But the focus of today's talk is around current activities, which is part of our current Landscape Priority Fund project. And ultimately, the goal of that is to achieve a truly multi-agency coordinated approach to buffel grass management across the state. And priority activities within the project include targeted both surveillance and control, investment in research looking at improving the control tools that we currently have. So looking at what's going on in soil microbiomes and can that be manipulated to improve our control efforts. Australia-wide genetic population analysis to inform if and when it's approved as a target for biocontrol, to be able to look at host range surveys for potential agents, as well as improving our surveillance effectiveness through some use of drone and AI surveillance. In addition to looking at some benefit cost analysis, climate prediction modelling, and ongoing sort of herbicide trials to combat resistance, as well as improve the current tools that we have. Also sort of working with Biosecurity Commons to be able to aid in terms of resource allocation and a variety of workflows looking at potential spread and risk and those sorts of things. Education is a key part of any campaign, and so yeah, deliver a number of sort of workshops on best practice and how to develop plans and just making general awareness and the need for action on buffel at the forefront. Although it's a state sort of coordinator role, have been working quite significantly, particularly with Northern Territory, with their recent declaration of buffel, but as well as other states, and working as part of the NEWP, the National Established Weed Priority Framework, to assist with things like the WANS criteria. And just a note there, if anyone is able and happy to collect some DNA samples as part of that genetic population analysis, or be involved more broadly, I'd encourage you to sort of reach out and would welcome any support. So the governance structure of our current sort of program really sits sort of at the state level. We've got a steering committee, and with representatives from all of the landscape regions, which are equivalent to your NRM regions, as well as Department of Primary Industries, Department of Infrastructure and Transport, Energy and Mines, and Environment and Water. And so ultimately, we've got representation from those sort of key stakeholders there. And a couple of other sort of committees and working groups looking at the sort of operational level as well, to bring in practitioners and be able to share learnings and to be able to collaborate on projects and assist each other where possible there. And we also have a national sort of task force, a group that we call the Buffel Legends, who consists of sort of researchers, practitioners, and a range of other and key sort of stakeholders that work together at that sort of national level. Other components of the project obviously relate to the strategic plan itself, regional surveillance and control programs, WANS and WINS nominations, as well as the research components and trials. Recently, we had a opportunity to provide a nomination for buffel grass as a weed of national significance, and we, as part of that sort of national collaboration, had a partnership between the Indigenous Desert Alliance, Arid Lands Environment Centre, and Alinytjara Wilurara Landscape Board to pull together a comprehensive WANS nomination, which we've received some really great feedback on, and is going through the assessment process as we speak. But a testament to the collaboration, we had 87 organisations signed on to an open letter which we produced, and 43 letters of support from every mainland state and territory, and a significant number of sort of case studies looking at obviously management, impacts on culture, threatened species, fire, carbon, the pastoral industry, as well as health impacts. So a really broad collaboration for that nomination. We've been advocating quite strongly for some time at the state level, and met with the Deputy Premier, Minister Close, late last year, and that resulted in a ministerial roundtable back in November. And we had a number of ministers looking at environment and water portfolios, infrastructure and transport, energy and mining, primary industries, local government, and housing and urban development, as well as senior executives from landscape boards and a range of agencies, including the Pastoral Industry and Nature Alliance, CFS, Outback Communities Authority. So I guess a first really for particularly a weed, but a particular issue to have all of those high-level decision makers focused. And that roundtable consisted of a 2-hour sort of meeting, where we outline all of the relevant impacts of buffel grass, economic, social, and cultural, as well as in detail description of some PhD work looking at the ecological destructiveness of buffel, primarily through the impact of increased frequency and intensity of fire. And presentations from a range of other sort of key stakeholder agencies. After which the ministers left the meeting, and we sat down to workshop potential changes to policy, what sort of multi-agency partnerships opportunities are there, and the need for operational activities and funding. So a total of 37 attendees from across sectors, so unprecedented level of support there. As a result, we've done a range of sort of media and those sorts of things, again, to sort of raise the profile of buffel grass here in South Australia, and also develop some extension materials that really just sort of capture the severity and the breadth of the impacts of buffel grass visually, and as well as identifying potential opportunities and solutions into the future, and our vision and pathway forward. So following the ministerial roundtable and in recognition of the significant sort of safety, infrastructure, cultural and environmental impacts associated with buffel, the minister requested the development of a business case to support that coordinated statewide multi-agency approach. And we're utilising the sort of investment logic mapping approach that's in the process of being developed now, identifying the problem, the benefits, the proposed solutions framework or response. And other agencies have also offered to support in the development of that. But the real focus of the business case is a framework over the next 7 years, looking at reviewing our strategic plan, provision of a coordinator and an extension officer, regulatory and policy changes, compliance work, targeted action and research and data management, some of the core, I guess, components of a truly sort of statewide coordinated response. And really the focus, the problems that we're looking to target there is the scale of invasiveness and invasiveness of infestation. So looking at improved backstress control and landscape scale surveillance and control options. Looking at dealing with the frequency and the intensity of fires threatening safety and infrastructure, as well as culture and biodiversity. So those are really the main focus of that investment logic framework. So I guess where to from here? Really, it's about awaiting the outcome of the WANS nomination. I didn't mention, but we've also submitted a nomination for buffel grass to be recognised as a standalone key threatening process. So those national frameworks certainly have the ability to provide national coordination and recognition that will definitely improve, particularly cross-border management of some of those sort of vectors and pathways. Delivery of priority research, which all of which will contribute to ultimately improve best practice management of buffel grass. And as well as obviously conducting targeted surveillance and control within our state, and really ramping up the engagement of primary producers, local councils, and a range of other key stakeholders. One of the messages that did come out of the round table is following our presentations, the lack of understanding of the severity and the urgency required for managing those significant impacts. And the rollout of the Landscape Priority Fund is continuing. That although that is a short-term funding through the landscape regions, and so we've made the message and the call out loud and clear to the state that we need long-term, consistent, significant funding to really make inroads in managing buffel grass and the associated risks at the state level. So the final step, where to from here, is cross our fingers and toes and hope that we can get that funding bid up through the minister's office. We're looking at quite a significant amount of funding, of about $15 odd million over that 7-year period. So dramatic sort of boost to our capacity to effectively manage buffel grass.
Thanks, Troy.
I'm aware that questions we'll deal with later. So thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you very much, Troy, and yeah, all the best of your pending nominations and applications.